welcome. Welcome to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. First order of business, just as you're sitting down, we'd like you to stand again for the national anthems of Britain and then the United States. On this glorious afternoon, we're here, you and I are here, because we share a common passion. We share a love for this magnificent game and the men and women who have played it so wonderfully and so well. We are here also not only to salute the living, but those who have gone before, the saints of the Hall of Fame. They're here. You can feel their touch. You can sense that they're with us. This place is the elder tournament ground for tennis in the world, going back to 1880. And so many wonderful things have happened here. Our first U.S. champion, Richard Sears, was crowned here. Dick Williams, 2 years after climbing out of the Atlantic Ocean, a Titanic almost victim, won the U.S. championship on this court, 1914. They've all been here, and I want to just salute Candy Van Allen, whose idea it was to have this Hall of Fame. We're here specifically to honor two men, James Scott Connors, Jimbo, and Herman David, two men who meant so much to this game. They were rebels in their way, they were pioneers in their way, and they moved the game ahead. Our executive committee of the Hall of Fame, right there, would you stand, ladies and gentlemen? Friends of James Connors, would you stand, please? The family of Jimmy Connors, Gloria, you got it all started in Belleville. Gloria Connors, Mom. Jimmy's wife, Patty. His daughter, Aubrey. And their son, Brett. I'd like you also to meet John Reese, the chairman of the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Hall of Famer Joe Coleman, who had so much to do with restoring the hall and headed the Virginia Slims. Penny David, who will accept on behalf of her father. Wimbledon, U.S. and Australian champion Virginia Wade. The youngest of all U.S. champions when she won the first of her 2 titles, Tracy Austin. I think she looks younger than she did in that day in 1979. Who could play doubles better than the Rosebud, who won 12 major titles at Wimbledon and the U.S., Rosie Casals. A man who scored that rare double, winning both Wimbledon and the U.S. and leading the United States to a Davis Cup triumph, Vic Seixas. A man who tripled. He held the French, the U.S., and Wimbledon titles in his days, and with Seixas, won the Davis Cup, Tony Trabert. Our honoree for today, and you'll hear from him later, Jimmy Connors. And I want to draw your attention to the box behind the court because this man, 60 years ago, changed our tennis language. He took a boat 3 weeks to get to Australia and won that title. Came home, then had to take another boat to get to France, won that title. Crossed the channel to win Wimbledon. And then, after waiting a week for the famous hurricane of 1938, he was a hurricane himself at Forest Hills. He won all 4 in 1 year, the first to make the Grand Slam. He is Don Budge. Thank you, Don. We wouldn't have that term, Grand Slam, were it not for you. Now let's honor the greats. Virginia Wade will speak on behalf of Herman David. Virginia.
Thank you, Bud. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to be here today in this wonderful setting. I was so thrilled when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and it's been something that stood with me, and I've felt how great it is ever since. I'm so pleased, I'm so honored to be able to be involved in this enshrinement of a man that I thought was one of probably the most charming and humane men of the officials. And you know how as players we think of officials, especially when you, in your teens, you begin to think of them all as stuffed shirts, and you know Wimbledon has a bit of that reputation that they don't really care about you as a mere player. Herman David was different. I knew him when he was chairman of the All England Club, and you know how for an English person Wimbledon is absolutely the mecca of the tennis world. It is for everybody, but even more for a British person. And Herman used to sit up in the front row in the royal box, and I think, oh, they all, you know, they're a little tied up and buttoned up. But he would always be so nice to me. It was absolutely amazing. I began to think, maybe officials are all right. And he was a man who had great, great vision. It was he who, as sham amateurism was taking hold in the 60s, the late 60s, he said, Wimbledon should be the place that every great tennis player plays. He said, I'm fed up with this. I'm going to, as Bud said, he was a bit of a rebel. I'm going to insist that tennis goes open. And it was one of those brilliant decisions, and one of the things that Wimbledon managed to get really right. They managed to retain the tradition of the game in so many ways, but yet they managed to move with the times. And that was all due to Herman David. He was a wonderful man. I missed him terribly. I was really, really sad that when I won Wimbledon, he wasn't around anymore. But this is my moment to add to my appreciation of him and to tell you what a great service he did to the game. He was a great player, but above all, he's remembered for making the decision that made tennis what it is today. So it's my pleasure to be able to give the certificate to Penny, his daughter, somebody that I also have known for a long time and love dearly. Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much, Virginia. And thank everybody for this wonderful certificate. I'm going to take it right home to England, to my mother. She would really have liked to have been here, but she's 87 years old, and she simply couldn't have made the trip. But she is incredibly proud that my father's being enshrined here today, and she wanted me to send you all her best wishes and her thanks. Now, when my father was working towards having tennis become open to amateurs and professionals alike, he was occasionally warned by people that if he brought commercialism into tennis, he would only do so at the expense of the charm and elegance and grace of the sport. Now, he'd be so happy to be here today and to see how wrong all these pessimists were, because here in Newport, you have a totally charming, totally elegant, totally graceful occasion. And more than all that, it's uniquely American. And I want to thank you very, very much indeed for sharing it with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny David. When you think about open tennis coming in 30 years ago, thank goodness, because it just arrived in time for the next guy. And to be his guide into the Hall of Fame is the great Tony Trabert.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's certainly a special privilege for me to stand up here and talk about a man that has had an unbelievable career that's still going on. 109 career singles titles, which is an open era record. He's won 8 Grand Slam singles titles and 2 doubles titles. The Australian Open he won in '74 and was a finalist in '75. Wimbledon, he won in '74 and '82. Was a finalist 4 other years and also won the doubles. US Open, he won 5 times, runner-up twice, and won the doubles with Ilie Nastase as well. He played on 3 Davis Cup teams. He was ranked number 1 for 160 consecutive weeks. Bjorn Borg snuck in there for 1 week. Jimmy got the number 1 ranking back, and overall he held it for 268 weeks. He was number 1 in the world 5 years in a row, a record just tied this year by Pete Sampras. He asked me to make sure I tell you that he is not retired. He thought that I talked to Jimmy about a year ago about the possibility of this opportunity. And he said, but geez, I'm still competing. And I said, well, our criteria is you've got to be off the main tour for 5 years. You qualify. We think that you should be in the Hall of Fame. He was so voted. He plays in World Team Tennis for the Kansas City Explorers. Matter of fact, he played there last night. And he also plays on the Nuveen Tour against players like John McEnroe and Bjorn Borg. Jimmy Connors, probably one of the fiercest competitors I've ever seen. I think he got the maximum out of his game, and I think he's exactly where he belongs, in our Hall of Fame. Jimmy, if you'd come forward, please. Jimmy, it's my pleasure to present you with this memento of the Hall of Fame, and we welcome you, and we hope you'll come around an awful lot. Congratulations.
Thank you. This is my first time here in Newport, and my first time to go through the Hall of Fame, and it's everything and more I ever heard it to be. And as I look back now, I wish I would have spent more time here, but happy to be here today. If you don't mind, I'll put these on. No wonder I argue with so many linesmen. I could never see the ball. I must tell you, I'm thrilled and overwhelmed to have my career acknowledged in the fashion you are doing here today by inducting me into the Hall of Fame. Being compared with and joining the past greats who preceded me and that laid the groundwork for me to have a chance to play this game is truly an honor. As I have said many times, I love everything about this game. I like the work, I like the grind, the dedication, the competition, the sacrifice, but I didn't look at it as work. It was my pleasure. But I guess you all have heard that many times, maybe too many times. But that is something that came from the heart, and I wasn't afraid to show that. I make no apologies for the way I play the game, and it seems to me that's what the fans came to expect of me. And in return, that brought out the best I had, never wanting to disappoint them, the fans, at any time. All through my career, I wanted to bring the real sports fan into tennis so that tennis could be on the same level as baseball, basketball, football, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. The fans rewarded me in New York in 1991 by following my last real run at a major championship and giving me what I worked hard for throughout the course of my whole career, and that was to have 20,000 people sound like 60,000 fans. That was a feeling that I could never explain, and really the only thing I can do to them and to you all is to say thank you. I still look back at a few emotional happenings in my career. Naturally, my first U.S. Open and Wimbledon victories, challenge matches against some of the all-time greats, and my rivalry over the years with the likes of Borg and McEnroe. What a great time for me to be a part of tennis. But tennis for me almost ended 8 years ago when a career-threatening wrist injury, reconstructive surgery, and a full arm cast for 11 weeks, I had no guarantees that I would ever play tennis again. And I think a lot of people in the game at that time had written me off, except for really Billie Jean King and Alana Kloss, and I'd like to take a chance to just publicly thank them for inviting me at that time when I had no idea that I would ever play tennis again. They took a chance, invited me to play team tennis, so I'd just like to say thank you to them. That is part of the reason I'm standing here today. I'm sure over the years not sure, I know. Over the years, there's a lot of people that were involved in my career, many that I would like to mention, many that I would leave out. So I'd just like to say thank you to them for being a part of it. I had a ball, and I hope those that took part in what I had to do can say the same. As everyone probably knows and has been written, probably more than I would like to read about anymore, but I was quite a loner over the course of my career. But for me, standing here alone is not right. So if I could, I'd like to put some seats to my left and some seats to my right. And for the seats on my left, I would like to put my mother and my grandmother. And they gave me the game. They allowed me to play, to have the opportunity to go out and to strive to work at something, to reach my dreams and try to be successful. My grandmother was around for all the hard work, the first 15 years. And then when things started going good, and I turned pro when I was 19 in 1972, she left us. So I know she was watching, and so her seat is next to me. But my mother was left to take over the task of furthering me on. I don't know if she liked the inheritance that she had there, but she was able to wear 3 hats throughout the course of my life. One is a coach, one is my mother, and one is my friend. And for her to be able to balance that, to wear each hat and still, after 45, almost 46 years, still be able to sit down and talk with each other was quite something. A lot of the ways that she handled me was criticized over the years, but never any real criticism that bothered her. She just understood what she wanted to do with my career and handled it accordingly. And for that and for everything that she has done for me in my life, there is never enough thanks to give to you. Only all my love. Thank you. Your seat is well taken right here. To my right, my immediate family, my son Brett, my daughter Aubrey, my wife Patty. My kids do not play tennis by their choice and hopefully by my design. They have gone on their own way and chosen their own ideals and their own goals, and for that I am probably most proud. Brett, 19, my daughter Aubrey, 13, have chosen their own ways. They've grown up well, they've grown up strong, they've grown up straight, and they've grown up to be the kind of kids that I, as a father, am most proud of. But the most important thing that I would like to say here is that tennis took me away from home quite a bit of the time. They understood that. And for my return, the last 5 years, they have given me the greatest gift by allowing me to fit into my fatherly duties with ease. And that was something. For my wife, Patty, well, I don't think she knew 20 years ago what she was getting into. And it was said and written many times that Patty Connors was a saint to put up with Jimmy Connors. And that's probably the only darn thing the press got right about my career all that time. Tennis and the way I played it was very selfish. I had one thing on my mind, and that was to try to be the best and to win. And for those 20 years, Patty has gone along with that and made everything possible for me to continue to do so, not only at the beginning, but up until today's date. And the way she fit in, the way she handled the situation when I was gone, taking care of both my children, taking care of the house, making everything all right and comfortable for me so that when I did leave, I could concentrate on the one thing that I was doing, and that was playing the tennis, taking care of all her duties as a mother and everything else she had to do. And then still, after doing all that, finding time to be my wife was truly amazing. I know you know just how amazing I think that is. So for everything and everybody, this is a very interesting time for me. I never really thought at all about not playing tennis anymore or not doing what I've always done. This puts things in a new perspective and a new light for me. I have enjoyed my life to this point more than anything that I can say, but I have a long life left ahead of me, and I have an awful lot of great people to spend that time with. And I thank you for everything. Thanks for everything that you've done. Thanks for being the fans that you are. Continue to love this game. I do. Thanks for everything.
Well, Jimmy, take it with you. He's going to do a victory lap with Bob Bachet. Well, you know, the late Bill Reardon, who was Jimmy's manager, used to say, James Scott Connors, the one and only. Wasn't he right? Wasn't he right? So thank you, everyone. You've certified that Jimmy Connors is now a member of this group, officially inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame, and we're actually going to have some tennis. Semifinals coming up. Thank you all very much.